Hello, CIS 1400, and welcome to Module 6, in which you have your first project to do. If you recall, this first project is called the Reverse Guessing Game. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to kind of read through the project description and get familiar with the concepts of the project. So what I'm going to do in this video is simply run you through a couple of executions of the project so you can kind of see it working and make sure that you understand exactly what's being asked of you. So here I have my reverse guessing game. I'm going to launch it. The very first thing I'm going to see on the screen are some directions, a welcome message. It says, welcome to our guessing game. You need to choose a number from 1 to 100, and I will try to guess it. Choose your number and press enter to continue. So it is physically asking me, the user, to choose a number in my head from 1 to 100. Let's say I'm going to choose 57, okay? And the computer is going to attempt to guess it. So I'm going to press enter here. 57 is the number that's in my head. It's going to say, was your guess 26? I'm going to enter yes or no. So I'm going to say, no, it was not. Was the guess too high or too low? That guess was too low. So I'm going to enter too low, because remember my number is 57. So now it's going to increase the guess, so I will never get a guess below 26 again throughout this entire rest of the program. So my number was 57. Was your guess 67? I'm going to say no. This time it was too high. So it's going to bring the guess down, and I will never, ever again have a guess above 67. Was your guess 64? No, it was not. It was still too high. So was your guess 57? Oh, it nailed it. So I'm going to say yes, it was. And it says I win, I got it, press enter to quit. Now the game gets played until either it gets the answer right, like it did here, and the computer then wins, or until it makes 7 guesses, incorrect guesses. So if any time it makes its 7th guess and I say no, program ends and it says something to the accord that I won as the user. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Now, some of the things that you need to watch out for in this game is that, one, I can still pick that number. Let's say the number was 95 or something like that. I could enter the words yes or no in caps, under lowercase, or a combination thereof. So if I say no, all lowers, or even if I were to say no in this manner, n, capital, lowercase n, capital O, case sensitivity is completely turned off. So I want to make sure as long as the characters are there, it will still register the response. Was the guess too high or too low? I'm going to say that was too low. Again, case sensitivity does not make a difference. No matter how I spell it, as long as I spell it correctly for the game, we have it. Make sure your prompts are very clear to understand. Enter yes or no. Was the guess too high or too low? I'm going to say too low. Was the guess 87? Let's say I typed in not close. Okay? It's going to ask me again. I need to validate the input. I need to make sure the input is exactly what the program is expecting. It says enter yes or no again. And I can type in anything I want. Nah, okay? It's going to keep asking me to enter yes or no until I answer it correctly. So I'm going to say no. Was the guess too high or too low? If I just said the word low or something like that, it's still going to validate. Enter too high or too low. I have to enter too low. And even if I spell the word too wrong, it's going to ask me again. I'm going to say too low. Okay? Then it's going to make me enter a guess. One thing that we should also say is that spaces make no difference. So if I say no and a bunch of spaces, it's going to take that as an actual appropriate guess. So it's going to trim all the white space down and strip it away. So was my guess too high or too low? Too low. Okay, is your guess 95? No. Was my guess too high or too low? Too low. 97. I'm going to say yes, and there it says I win. I got it. I'll go through at least one execution in which it doesn't win. Okay. So regardless of what it chooses, okay, I'm going to press enter here to continue. Was my guess 86? I'm going to say no. It was too high. I don't have a number in mind. Let's just even say it was 1, just for the sheer happenstance. So was your guess 31? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it was too low. 50, no. I'm going to say it was too low. I'm just going to run through it so that it loses no matter what. No. Too high. No. Too low. No. here it already says, I took my 7th guess, sorry, and it says you win, press enter to quit. So there's basically the executions. In terms of this project, again, you have to keep in mind that you, the user, are picking the number from 1 to 100. The computer is trying to guess it. Now, how it goes about guessing is completely up to you. I have it choosing a random number between the given range of 1 to 100 and then significantly reducing that range as it goes through based upon my responses of too high and too low. You could just mathematically try to work your way through it. Now, if you have an algorithm that you'd like to imply, for instance, you want to pick the middle number between the high and low possibilities each time, you are more than welcome to do that. I don't care how the game gets played as long as it has these criteria. Make sure you give this game to somebody else to play. They should be able to play it without any issues and no direction from you. Just simply tell them, hey, it's a guessing game. I need you to read the instructions and play it appropriately. And if the other person can play it and come to either a win or a loss or both, then you know you've got a good project. So please test it and test it on somebody else, a family member, a friend, somebody. That's the only way for you to really understand whether or not your prompts are clear and concise. Because oftentimes when you're coding something, yes, you might write the instruction and understand its intended meaning, but that's only because you wrote it and understand what's supposed to happen. So give it to someone else who has no idea what you're doing and let them go through it to see if you need to tinker with the instructions or any of the prompts or the input and making sure that it's validated appropriately. Notice at no point did my program crash. Yours should not as well. So that validation piece is extremely important. So that's really what I'm looking for. The rest of the criteria are kind of laid out in the instructions. You need to make sure that you include at least 2 abstractions. One of them must be a module in which it just kind of helps refine the process. The directions are a great option for that. You need to have at least 1 function that returns something. For instance, in this particular game that I have here, I have a function that helps me gather the yes-no response or whether or not it was too high or too low, simply because that piece of information had to be validated. So I wanted to make sure that I went through a function first that would validate it and then spit it back out to the program based upon whatever I put in and take out. So the direction and how it gets coded, the logic that it possesses is completely up to you. But you need to make sure that it fits those little criteria. That's what I'm going to be grading you on. If you have any other questions on how this works, please feel free to post them in the discussion thread in the Module 6, or email me directly if it's more of a personal question regarding to your project. Feel free to send me code, and I can review it and kind of look it over for you too and try to give you some feedback as we progress through these next 2 weeks. So you essentially have 2 weeks to work on this, but you still have to finish Module 5, and I would highly suggest finishing Module 5 before starting this particular game. It's not terribly a long project, but it is important, and it has all the features of what we've been talking about in class from the very start up until this point in time. So it's a good project to do. Have fun with it. Good luck. And again, if you have any questions, please ask. So yeah, moving on with your guessing game, and let's see how it goes. Thank you.